RockCellarTV.
Well, ambition when I got to California was just to get away from all the things that were bothering me and like live in California and play music. That was it. When I got there, I just wanted to be free and like be in California and like not have a bunch of people breathing down my neck, which I achieved like instantly by being in California and playing music on the street. And then so I'm out there, and then Jack, said to me, how are you going to make it? This was at our first meeting. He goes, well, how are you going to make it? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, like make records, be on TV, man, have like huge hit records. So I got on that wavelength with him, Before that, my heroes have been like poets, blues singers, and like those songwriters I told you about, But like really, I love the Beatles and stuff, and huge rock and roll acts, too. And so we decided in the Nerves that we wanted to like take over the world and be like the biggest rock and roll band in the world, playing the simplest form of rock and roll that there'd ever been. And like so we completely stripped it down. This is before the Ramones or anything like that. We hadn't heard the Ramones or heard of them even, but we stripped our music down to just bass guitar and drums, really simple with the songs and the vocals, hanging on the telephone when you find out, working too hard and all that stuff. And our dream was to like be at Shea Stadium or something equivalent and just have like huge speakers, like just have this really simple sound. And that's why the sound was so simple. And then just make it sound really huge and just have a bunch of teenagers going crazy over it, And that's a pretty simple dream, And that band broke up for different reasons. The songs were really good, but in a lot of ways, like the Nerves we played a lot on the road, but I wanted to have a band that was much more able to, I wanted to have like a band that had the song thing happening, but could really kind of incorporate more rock and roll into it. And so I started the Plimsouls, and I wanted to have a band that could be undeniable live as well. And because the Nerves, it was a great songwriting kind of band, and then live we were okay, but there was room to grow. We were really young musicians at that point, and I just felt like it could be a lot better. And so the Plimsouls really became a band that you could go anywhere and just blow the roof off it if the band was in shape. And the band always had to, we always thought we were like the '69 Mets, we had to play over our heads, And so we couldn't just show up cold and play good. You had to go out and play about 2 weeks on the road. We'd be wandering around, and the band would heat up, and all of a sudden it would get hot. And then if you just kept it on the road and kept going, the shows were unbelievable. The band, we would just come alive and play over our heads. And so that was the secret to the Plimsouls. And our ambition was the same kind of as the Nerves, except we were trying to take it. I realized that we really wanted to be a live act and really deal with the world as it was and go out and take on the clubs and bigger concerts or whatever and all that. And I was writing pop songs, I always thought that we could be on the radio, and they were rock and roll songs that you could play, that could be played on the radio. But I didn't think that it just by their nature they could be played on the radio because they were very hooky and communicative, But so we did that, and we pretty much did what we wanted to do, except we never really broke nationally. It was always underground, and so it was before we were the very start of that college radio thing, and before really REM, the Plimsouls was out there, and then REM kind of took it and ran with it, and we were, I don't know, the band broke up, And so at that point, at that point, I just wanted to write great songs and be able to go out and play solo and be a folk singer. And I grew up doing that. And I loved Bob Dylan. I loved Woody Guthrie, and I loved blues music. And I didn't care anymore what everybody else was doing. I'd already spent 10 years playing in bands. And it got me to a certain point, but I just wanted to do this other thing, because I feel like there's a way that I can really affect people more personally and more memorably as a solo artist, And I feel like a completely contemporary artist as me, but as the Plimsouls, I feel like an oldies act, and so that's why I don't do it. And I had a girl come up to me in the '90s, and she goes, we played this big packed show, but she comes up and she goes, I have a question. This little girl, I'm like, yeah. She goes, what's it feel like to be from the '80s? I go, I'm not from the '80s. I'm from the '50s. You're from the '80s. Okay? I'm not from the '80s, And so I'm not interested in that, and I'm not really into a nostalgia thing at all, and I like writing songs about now. And if the Plimsouls could deliver that, but there's something, there's something about it I don't dig. Maybe if we'd made it bigger at the time, I'd be more, I'd feel like it was difficult to keep it going. We were back all through the '90s, playing a lot of shows. Did you see any of those shows? that we played a lot, you know, with Clem Burke on drums, and Brian Head was the other drummer, and we played for quite a lot. We toured and everything, but the solo thing is more where my heart's at.
Rock Cellar TV, 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 Rock Cellar TV.